Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Jonathan Cohn, and today I have my mid-year freakout tag. I did this once last year. It was a lot of fun to do. I do it right, I record the video right towards the end of June, so I'm about halfway through the year, and I usually release it sometime in July, and so it is that time of year. It is that time of year for the mid-year freakout tag. We should have lots of fun here. So the first question of the tag is, what was the best book I've read this year? And I actually had to do a four-way tie because I couldn't choose just one. But these are four different genres, which I find really interesting. So in the genre of mystery, the best book I read this year was Sparkling Cyanide by Agatha Christie. Oh, was this such a great mystery, such a great twist, and one of those twists that I was like, oh my goodness, I can see all that coming. In the genre of legal thriller, The Litigators. This is a book that really stuck with me for a while. I was thinking about the ramifications of it, and I just love the main character, and I love so much about the way this book unfolded. And sometimes John Grisham makes characters that are really unlikable and makes books that are unlikable, The Rooster Bar, but sometimes he makes books that I absolutely love and really enjoyed, and that's The Litigators. Then, in the realm of sci-fi, my favorite book so far this year was The Calculating Stars. Loved this book. Very much like For All Mankind, if you've seen that TV show, part of the Lady Astronaut series. It's superb. And then in the genre of fantasy, best book I read was Eyes of Silver by Michael Stackpole. You would not know it was a good book. Based off this cover, you would think it's cheesy and not a good book, but it's an amazing book. Super well done. So those are the four best books I've read this year. Now, there's also the question of what is the best sequel that I read this year. So all of those were either first book entries or standalones, so they don't count. But the best sequel I read this year by far has to go to Destiny by Elizabeth Hayden. This is the third book in the Symphony of Ages series. It kind of wraps up the initial trilogy that she wrote and meant to write. And I love the character of Rhapsody. I love the characters in the book. I love Lauron. I love Ash. I love everyone in the book. And so it was really well done. I thought this was a superb book. Best sequel I've read, and really does a good job wrapping up the series. This felt Wheel of Time level epic. Really well done. Now for the biggest the next one is the most anticipated to be released book. I understand this is a book that it will be released this year that I'm really excited to read on my TBR. And I have two that I'm going to mention here. One of them is a Star Wars book. It is Inquisitor: Rise of the Red Blade, which is actually coming out in July. So around the time this video comes out, I should be getting my hands on it. And I'm really excited to read that book. That was and is still my most anticipated book of the year. Delilah Dawson, superb author. I love her writing. And then the other book that I'm really excited about that's coming out this year is The Icarus Twin by Timothy Zahn. Timothy Zahn wrote back in, I think, 1998. He had The Icarus Hunt, which was a great novel. And then recently he wrote The Icarus Plot, which he switched over to Baen Books. And some of you may remember, Baen let me break the news that the book was coming out. So that was really exciting. And the Icarus Twin comes out at the end of the year in December. So that'll be a really exciting. So I can have something that's coming right now and something that's coming at the end of the year that I'm most anticipated for. Then I have the biggest disappointments of the year so far. These are always sad to talk about. I don't like talking about books I hate, but unfortunately I have two on here. I only have two books that were in the negative this year. I have my rule is a 1 star I absolutely hate, 2 stars I did not like the book at all. 3 stars, it was okay, was fine. 4 stars, that's a pretty good book, and then 5 star is amazing. The first one is a 2-star book, and that's Battle Scars by Sam Maggs. Didn't like the book, really. It was not, from like a technical level, it wasn't great. From a character level, from like a fan level, delivering on what fans want, it wasn't great. So overall, I was very disappointed in this book, which is kind of sad. And then the one-star book, the book I hated, couldn't stand the book, then when I read it, was Every Heart a Doorway by Seanan McGuire. You can see my review of this. I won't get too much into it, but like every decision she made, I thought was the wrong decision in this book. So that was very, very frustrating. Next, I have what was the biggest surprise book of the year? And I actually have two books to mention here. One of them I already talked about, which was Eyes of Silver. Again, I didn't expect this to be a great book necessarily. I mean, I love Michael Stackpole and everything he writes has been great, but I didn't necessarily feel like this would be like a top book of the year for me, and yet it was. So I would definitely include this as the biggest surprise. And another book that also would get that is the book Honor Harrington, Field of Dishonor. Books 1 was pretty good, book 2 and 3 were okay, but this book was superb, blew me away. I thought that the way that David Weber mixed Tom Clancy-like sci-fi with Horatio Hornblower like C.S. Forrester kind of storytelling, along with a little bit of legal stuff from John Grisham. Put those three things together, you have a pretty awesome combination for this book. So that's why this was one of my most surprising and one of the best books I read. Next, it is the favorite new author, or at least new to me author. And ironically, these are both authors that are pretty new to the scene, so that kind of works out well. There are two authors I'll include here. One of them is Joelle Presby. Now, if you saw my review of this, you know that I'm kind of mixed on it. I thought that the ideas were wonderful, and I thought that the world building was wonderful. I just thought that the execution of the story and the plot and the characters was not wonderful. But I think that Joelle Presby, she has me fascinated. I think about this book all the time. I think about it so much. And I really want to see more from this universe and from her as a writer. So when you have that kind of a feeling where I feel like you're going to get better and I'm really excited to see what you do next, that's an excellent feature to have. Next, the other favorite new author is Morgan Shank. This is a self-pub author. I had the wonderful opportunity of reading this in its ARC form before it actually came out. He let me be before it was an ARC, he let me be a beta reader on it. And then I recently read book 2 as a beta reader, and book 2 was also very well done. And I think that Morgan Shank is demonstrating that he should be writing for a major publisher. And so this book, for sure, is on my, this author is on my favorite new authors list. Next, I'll talk about my favorite, the book tag said new favorite fictional crush. But I don't really have crushes necessarily, so I'm going to say my favorite fictional couple is how I'm going to change that. And I'm going to give that to Maggie and Galen O'Day from the Golden Queen trilogy. You see throughout this trilogy them as a couple developing, them becoming more romantic, them growing in their relationship. And even though this is kind of a bizarre type science fiction series, they're a great couple. So that's who I would put for my favorite new couple. Next, it is What Book Made You Cry? And I'm going to go back to one I already talked about, and that is Destiny by Elizabeth Hayden. This book, it was such a good book. The ending, the storytelling, the writing style, everything about this book I thought was beautiful, and I kind of cried during it. Next, the question is favorite character, new favorite character, and that goes to David Zink in The Litigators. Thought David Zink was fantastic in The Litigators. He was wonderful. What book made you happy? That has to go to Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. Oh, this book was hilarious. Oh, this book was delightful. Oh, it was just everything you'll want in a book. I had so much fun with it. Great standalone Cosmere novel. Great narrator. Oh, the narrator's hilarious. Oh, Ulam, the character, he's hilarious. Everything about this book is just delightful. You're going to have a smile on your face reading this book. It's just so much fun. So this is the book that made me happy. Next on the book tag is a most beautiful book that I bought. Ooh, have I got some? I've got quite a few to mention here. Can't get to all of them, but let's see if I can get some of them. First, I'll talk about A Low Country. Beautiful book. Again, it is a self-pub book, but look at that cover. Gorgeous cover. I love this cover design. And then I'm also gonna give it to the Davare Snake Launcher. I love this cover design. I love how you have the volcano and you have the smoke and you can see the space elevator and the ship and you see the snake coming out of it, but it's really subtle. You don't necessarily notice the snake unless it's pointed out. I think that was great. So I'm really impressed with this cover. And then I have a few more to mention. The book of Wizards and Wolves has to make the list. This is an anthology commemorating the wonderful fantasy writer Dave Wolverton and David Farland, who sadly passed away last year. This was edited by Lisa Mangum, and this cover, I think, is just really well done. It really conveys. It's got a wizard and a wolf, and the wizard looks just like David Farland, and this is a perfect cover for this book. The final books I'll talk about for my favorite covers is I bought 3 of the Game of Thrones books from the old mass market paperbacks. The Game of Thrones, well, they're the Song of Ice and Fire. I know, I call them Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones, The Clash of Kings, and A Storm of Swords. These are just beautiful, beautiful covers. My least favorite one is Storm of Swords because it looks kind of cheesy. But book 2 I thought really gets across what it is. Book 1, like you can totally tell exactly what's happening and what scene and everything. This is a great cover. So I love those covers. So those are my 3 favorite covers. The last thing on my book tag is what are the books on my TBR? Can't entirely get into that because I have like 60 books on my TBR for the rest of the year, but I'll briefly go over what I can. The Saga of Shadows by Kevin J. Anderson I intend to read. I intend to read some of, if not all, the Fate of the Jedi series by Aaron Alston, Christy Golden, and Troy Denning. I also want to read some more of the Halo books that I own. And I also want to read my first Stephen King novel, some of the more science fiction from Kim Stanley Robinson and Ben Bova. I want to read some standalone fantasy as well as get into more fantasy series. I have a lot to get into, but I'm really excited for the year because the first half of the year has been great for my reading. So if you you want to tell me your answer to the book tag, let me know in the comments section down below. And what do you think about my picks? Do you think they're good picks or not? Until next time, I'm Jonathan. Thank you for watching.